Well, our guest on this segment is another friend, Bob Blackburn. And you've met him here before. The subject is Oklahoma history and OKPOP. Bob, it's good to have you.
Thank you, Sam. It's good to be here again.
They dance around OKPOP. There was a little blurb in the paper today about it. Tell the folks what we're talking about.
Well, we've been kind of providing these little teasers for years. We started in 2007 dreaming of having a museum in Tulsa. The Oklahoma Historical Society goes back to 1893. We had 30-some museum sites around the state, but nothing in Tulsa. We needed to correct that. We finally came up with the right theme, which was popular culture. So we take music, movies, television, your industry, radio, illustrators, cartoonists, and we're going to take this creative spirit that comes out of the Oklahoma story, connect it to their backgrounds. So with Ron Howard, who was born in Duncan, Oklahoma, his dad, Rance, was the son of two men who made the land run of 1893.
No kidding.
So we'll connect with Oklahoma history, we'll share their creativity, and show how Oklahoma values and culture and history has shaped very much world culture through the Leon Russells and the Bob Wills and the Doris or the Patty Pages
and the
and other James Garner. It could go on, and our television heroes. So we started that, really trying to lobby in 2008. We got some state funding 2 years ago. Now we have a site. We're across the street from Kane's Ballroom. As I told David Sharp, one of my heroes who donated the land for this museum, I said, David, this is perfect site. This is sacred ground by Kane's Ballroom. So much history. And he says, now I know why I've been collecting property since the 1980s here in this warehouse district for this moment where I could help with this project.
He deserves a special thanks from everybody out there because of that move along. You know, I recall a story, forgive me, but I have to tell a story about the last fellow that bought Kane's Ballroom. Told me he was up in the attic trying to take stock of any repairs need to be made, see what was there, and all of a sudden he stumbled on something. He looked down, and it was an inlaid wood sign that said Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. Inlaid. That had been up there for years. He brought it down. It's now on display at Kane's, or it has been, as far as I know, still there. But he said this old building knows more secrets, you know, and has seen more. And it's all over town. You know, people drive by and they don't really realize what's happened.
Yeah. You know, you and I have been in communication business, and in communication, you're always looking for that spark of creativity or the magic that will draw people in. Well, Kane's is one of those stories that's magical to the artists as well as to the people who have listened to their heroes in there. And being across the street, we'll have a 55,000 square foot museum with about 25,000 square feet of exhibit space. We already have Bob Wills' touring bus that he bought in 1949.
No kidding.
It'll be restored. We'll be able to drive it in and out, do tours of the music scene, the historical scene in Tulsa.
Oh, wow.
And then as you're going upstairs, you'll see the stories of all of these artists and how it all comes together. And with 1 degree of separation, we can go from Leon Russell to George Harrison. We can go from Jamie Oldecker to Eric Clapton. We can go to all of the great stars that have so much shared memory. And if we can get people in that museum, then we get their interest through the stars and their creativity, then we take them back into history. Well, why is Garth Brooks such a great star? Where does that inspiration come from? It's my opinion, his mother sang on a Tulsa television station. She was an entertainer. She learned how to entertain people through that camera. And then he learned by going to OSU and singing the honky tonks. What did those cowboys and oil field workers want to hear? He learned to entertain.
And he gave it to them.
And now as a poet, and he truly is a poet with musical ability, he's been able to tap into that Oklahoma spirit, sharing it with the rest of the world. We'll bring people here to see the Garth Brooks story and learn.
You know, listening to you talk, I'm struck with the fact that another element of Oklahoma was it was a stopping off point for the Underground Railroad, as you know. And we garnered a great many talented musicians here that folks don't really realize. You can go to Muskogee and find out some of it. But the New Orleans infiltration, the Kansas City, the St. Louis, the Chicago infiltration of musicians that came in, and even now, we have musicians that would astound you, who are members not only of the local hall, but the National Hall of Fame, very quietly.
If you from Tulsa, you might recognize the name of Ernie Fields.
I do.
In the 30s and 40s, Ernie was one of the top 5 all-black big bands. So in the Glenn Miller days, his son Ernie Fields Jr. grew up in Tulsa, went to Booker T, talented musician, went off to Hollywood like so many Oklahomans. He's now the director of The Voice and other TV shows. He's a legend. We did a tribute to him at the Canes this last April.
You know, I'm
Some of
sitting
the
here
best
fact-checking you, and you're right on target.
Thank you. Thank you. So we will tell that story of the all-black towns, the descendants of the slaves of the 5 tribes, and then what they would call the state Negroes, the influx of migration, bringing the Delta sound in this mixture with this Indian black culture.
And Oklahoma, at one time, in just our region, in fact, I was talking to this fellow from the John Hope Franklin Center the other day, that we at one time had over 40 black-owned and operated newspapers here. And this was pre-race riot. But they were up and running. I mean, those papers were solid. And one by one, they just kind of went to the wayside. But they communicated directly with a fellow who put and you'll know what I'm talking about, the Green Book out of New York, the postman that put together the place where people of color could eat or stay or camp or whatever and be safe. Because prior to that, there was a lot of bigotry and a lot of hatred out there and misunderstanding. I'm sorry. We need more time, you and I.
And we need to share that story. And one thing I want to mention with Historical Society, we've been around since 1893. Press Association started us. For that reason, we have all the newspapers ever published in Oklahoma, including all of those back issues of those black-operated and owned newspapers, all on microfilm. We're trying to digitize right now.
You ever let just somebody come over and just pilfer around?
Those are my favorite days to give a tour.
I'd love to do that.
After 40 years at the Historical Society, I still get excited about it.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's so many things under the umbrella, and I'm not sure, I got a minute. So many things under the umbrella of the Historical Society. Maybe we do need to come over there and pay you a visit, bring a camera and show a little bit about what you've amassed, and then come back here and share it, have you on again, and talk about what's available here and what's going into OKPOP.
I would love that opportunity, and thank you for doing this show. You're really a community service here by letting the people of this area know what's going on in the community.
Okay, I'll tell you what I want for this. I want you to put in a 1940s radio studio and a 1955 TV studio. And small, but like Elvis's place. You know, he and I talk frequently. Bob, thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
You're a good friend, and it's so good to have you here.
Thank you for your interest.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Perspective. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time around.